Warning, the Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother ears.
Good evening and welcome to episode 138 of the Stone Age Gamer podcast for the week of February 10th, 2017. I am Kris Randazzo, and joining me as always is cel-shaded masterpiece Dan Ryan.
Castlevania. I'm bringing it back.
Oh, Netflix. Yay! Tonight we'll be continuing our three-part... Talk about glossing over the news. We'll be continuing our three-part Legend of Zelda retrospective, but before we go any further, here's your weekly reminder that you can email us at mail@geekade.com. Let us know what you think of our show, what topics you would like us to discuss in the future, or just say hello, because we always want to hear from you, the listener. So, Dan, before I ask you how things are, I do want to just touch on that. They announced a Netflix Castlevania series.
Did they? I was at a child's birthday party today. They announced the Netflix Castlevania series.
Well, they didn't really announce it. We'll talk a little bit more about this.
It's just out. And you can watch it right now.
Like, Netflix had this whole thing today, and there was just on the list of upcoming programs Castlevania 2017, like limited series or something. Like, what?
Out of here.
Right. That's cool.
Awesome.
I mean,
you watching?
I think it's animated. I don't care. I mean, sure. I'm very curious about it. I'm really. We'll talk more about it on this week's episode. Next week, it's going to be on there. I promise.
Are you? By the way, are you watching Santa Clarita Diet?
Not yet. It is.
Okay.
It's
when
next.
you do, I want to be on this week's episode. There is a line in like episode 4 involving waffles. That is the funniest thing I have seen on TV this year, and I know it's only February, but I don't know that it's going to be topped. It is fabulous.
I mean, it's from the people who did Better Off Ted, which I absolutely loved that show.
I had no idea.
I didn't either.
Really?
I just found I was already sold once I saw the trailer for it, and now
it's fabulous.
I want to watch it even more. It's just a matter of getting to it, you know.
Listen, now that you've said that, the people responsible for Better Off Ted, also responsible for Santa Clarita Diet, makes perfect sense. Timothy Oliphant is doing the Lord's work in this show. He is not a guy I love all the time. He is incredible in this show. Anyway, so Zelda.
Did you watch The Grinder?
No, I've never seen The Grinder.
Oh my God, that show! Tragedy that show got canceled. There was a whole subplot with Timothy Oliphant in there being Rob Lowe's replacement on the incredibly cheesy judge court show that it's fantastic. There was actually an episode of the show called The Oliphant in the Room.
That's amazing.
So, Zelda, all right, back to business. How you doing,
anyway.
Dan? You doing good? You excited for tonight? You ready to do this?
Like I said, I was at a kid's birthday party today, and my daughters, I just got the phone call, their school is closed tomorrow, so I'm hoping my office is closed tomorrow as well. I would really appreciate that phone call so I can drink more beer.
Okay, well, I will be at work tomorrow, come heck or very little snow. We were supposed to get like 3 to 5 inches, and now we're down to like 1 to 3 and a bunch of sloshy rain. So yeah,
we were supposed to get 3 to 5 inches of snow, and now we're getting sunshine. I don't know how that happened. It's going to be 80 tomorrow.
It's going to be 80 again. So, all right, we are here for part 2 of our Zelda retrospective, and we're going to be looking at some Japanese exclusive oddities, Capcom's attempt at Zelda, and the series' seminal transition into 3D. So let's get started with the first one. We're picking up right where we left off last week. We're still on the Super Famicom. We're talking about BS Zelda no Densetsu, released on August 6th, 1995, only in Japan, for the BSX Satellaview add-on for the Super Famicom.
Now, the Satellaview was the download service.
Yes.
Right? This was the thing that never made it over here. I mean, we got the Sega one.
Yes,
right?
We got the Sega Channel.
Right, we got Sega Channel, but we never got the Satellaview.
Yeah.
And there was a couple really sweet games that came out Satellaview only.
That's very true. The most primary of them being the technically trio of Zelda games. There was 2 different maps for this first one we're talking about, BS Zelda no Densetsu, which is basically BS The Legend of Zelda. This is almost BS standing for Broadcast Satellite now. It's not bullshit Legend of Zelda.
Bullshit. This is the bullshittiest version of The Legend of Zelda.
And they're really strange. They've been hacked into like cartridges that you can play.
Right. Yeah, you can get these.
You can and you can't, because the thing about these games and a lot of Satellaview games, but these in particular, is that these games were broadcast and you would load them onto a cartridge, and then as soon as you did the next broadcast, they were gone forever. Mm-hmm. So the fact that these are even out there is kind of miraculous, because I think they just recently recovered a couple of the Kirby games that had been missing for years and years. Like this stuff, the only way it still exists is either in vaults at Nintendo where they won't let it out, and people just happening to have these games still on their cartridges. But when these were originally done, they were done through live broadcasts. Like they had these, like a timer was on, and people were voice acting the plot while you were playing, and they would say, all right, now everybody go this way, and you would go over to this dungeon, and like a plot would be being acted out live, like an audio drama, while you're playing the game. Which is
so weird.
It's so weird and so cool, and I can't believe nobody's really tried to do that again. The closest...
Well, it's Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Well, kinda. I would say the closest thing to that would have been that 1 versus 100 thing they did on Xbox Live a few years ago, like with the live game show. But, I mean, I can't believe that Nintendo hasn't actually tried to just recreate these.
Right. Because it's such a weird idea. Like, we're going to... Everybody go left. Yeah. Stab. Good. All right, now, next.
Well, they were there. I believe they were broader than that. It was like, all right, now head over to this area and, fight in this dungeon. And it was
You've got 5 minutes.
Yeah, they would basically time you to go do this other chunk of the quest. And I think that the important thing that we're missing talking about this in particular is like there was a plot with this that is pseudo related to A Link to the Past, but you didn't play as Link in any of the BS Zelda games. You played as like this little avatar type character that was related to your avatar with the BSX Teleview. And this one, BS Zelda no Densetsu, is almost like a Super Mario All-Stars version of the NES Legend of Zelda.
Right. It looks better.
Exactly. The map is a bit smaller. There's definitely chunks of it missing. It's not the whole game redone in 16 bits, but it is, the music and whatnot. It's a little odd because where Super Mario All-Stars was a very in-house, it was very, very thoroughly done. This was, I believe Hudson had a big hand in this.
Really?
So it kind of looks and feels a little off. Like it doesn't look as good as, say, A Link to the Past does, or it's not as much of a great improvement as, say, Super Mario All-Stars is over the original NES games of that variety. But they're really cool. They're really interesting to look at, like the redesigned sprites, the places they put grass and whatnot, and like I said before, people have hacked these ROMs and like hacked Link into it, and basically you can get like homebrew cartridges that are maps 1 and 2. People refer to these as like the third quest and the fourth quest because they're kind of like, like the second quest of Zelda, things were just kind of moved around a bunch. This is a similar type of situation. Have you ever actually played any of these?
No, I've seen videos of them. It's not something that I've ever acquired in any manner, and they look really cool. Like it's really nice to look at that original Zelda map, but brighter and more colorful and just cooler looking. Like the floor, like when you walk in and it's dangerous to go alone, take this, and the floor, like there's a floor, it's not just black.
There's more detail to certain things, like rocks don't look like snails for some reason. I always thought the rocks looked like snails in Zelda.
Yeah, it's weird.
But and the music is really, really interestingly done too. We did a wave back episode on the original Legend of Zelda a few months back, and I compared the US release to the Famicom release to the BSX Teleview release, and you get to hear the comparisons of all those different tracks, and it's really interesting to see where they went with that. It's like I said, it's not as straight a port as Super Mario All-Stars. It is kind of its own thing while still being a remake of the first game. It's so weird. They're so weird, but they're really, really cool. I downloaded a version to play through an emulator. I hope to eventually get it like in a controller and sitting on like a Raspberry Pi or an Everdrive or
Right.
something to sit back and really play it. But I played through a good chunk of it just through an emulator on my computer with a keyboard and buttons.
Zelda's one of the games that works that way. You don't need a ton of additional accoutrement to pardon my French, to play through a Zelda game like that. Zelda was one of the first games, like way back in college when I was younger and new to the world of like emulators and whatnot. It was like, this totally works. Like, this is awesome. I can play video games on my keyboard. And then I tried to play like other things and I was like, nah, man, like I can't.
Yeah, if you want to do a platformer or something on your keyboard, that's never going to happen.
Mega Man on this. This is terrible. But like Zelda works, so I'll just keep playing this.
Yeah, it worked. It worked just fine with the keyboard and buttons, though I would prefer to play with a controller, obviously. But it's really cool. It's so bizarre. I love that people have like hacked a link into it. I love that people have made a way for this to at least be kind of playable. I'm just sad that it's not available in its original format in any way. It's
sad. Like, it's almost like the Doctor Who thing of like, nobody's going to want this in the future. Like, this is a cool thing we're going to do, and then, that's it. Like, and then we're just going to, like, ignore. And, like, that sucks. This is cool. And it's sad. Nintendo makes some questionable choices every now and again where you're like, this is a thing. It's not like people don't like Zelda. Give me more Zelda. I will pay for it. Give me a legal way to get this game and play it. It's a thing that so many fans have never played. I guaranteed a ton of people have no idea what the hell this is.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that they're sitting on like unreleased Zelda stuff. Like I find that just completely crazy to me.
That's just such a strange thing, and especially now with the the last couple of years, the rebirth of the retro aesthetic in modern gaming. This is the time. This is the time, lads. Put it out. This is the one. You're missing it.
I mean, who knows? You never know when they're just going to drop this stuff on you. I mean, we're talking about the company that hasn't brought Mother 3 over to America, regardless of the fact that it has been proven time and time again that there is an audience for it.
Right.
So, well, I mean, who knows? You never know what they're going to do next. You can't predict Nintendo. So this was the first of the Satellaview ones. Then there was BS Zelda no Densetsu Inishi no Sekiban, which is translates to, I believe, the ancient stone tablets, if I'm
It does, yes.
correctly.
I speak fluent Japanese, and your pronunciation was wonderful. And ancient stone tablets is absolutely what this... No, I'm looking at the page, too. On Zeldapedia. Shout out.
Big fans of the show.
Ancient
stone tablets. Now this one's I wouldn't say it's arguably cooler. It's set 6 years after A Link to the Past. Link is gone, Ganon's forces are back, and your little Satellaview character is in the in the Hyrule of A Link to the Past, and it's basically like it's new adventures in that world before A Link Between Worlds did it, Except I think there's a lot more rearrangement going on. This one I haven't played. I haven't touched this one. I feel like it's more rearranged than A Link Between Worlds was, because Link Between Worlds was basically the same map, and I feel like this was a bit more on the different side. I think, God, I should have watched some videos of this today.
Well, we do passive research.
We do passive research.
Like I listen to you talk about this, and now I know about this. And if you didn't watch a video, then I don't know about this, Kris.
I'm so sorry.
You should be. You're the host. This is your responsibility.
Hey, you're a co-host.
Not the. There's a big difference, I think. I don't know. Okay. No, well, that's the other thing. There does exist stuff on these games, but it's games like this. It's always hard to just watch a video of, because like they're so different, yet so similar to what you're familiar with that just watching a video of it isn't really enough. Like it's like playing through Punch-Out, and then there's like the weird fan hacks of Punch-Out where they have different boxers in there, and you're like, all right, well, like I see what you're doing, but like I feel like I need to be in this to really get an appreciation for it.
Yeah.
Whereas like other things, like since I've played The Legend of Zelda, the original, I can watch a playthrough of that, and feel and know, and I'm in it. I get the whole experience. I don't know. Maybe that's a bullshit cop out for us not doing research, but
No, I mean I'm looking at it right now, and it's pretty rearranged. I mean, there didn't really seem to be much of a map screen here. Okay, yeah. So I'm looking at like he goes into his Sahasrah's house, and it's like a little different. He's got a bed in there now, and that little bomb hole isn't there. And then there's this whole other chunk of dungeon type area. Like, yeah, there's definitely some pretty major differences here between one to the other. Like, he just got a stone tablet, and he was just where I don't know, it wasn't in the Eastern Palace. It was just near the Eastern Palace. So yeah, it's a considerably
different. Western Palace.
It's the East Western Palace, the best Western Palace,
the best way, the Northeastern Palace. I like it.
The Quality Inn.
It's the Red Roof Inn of Zelda games. It's the Motel 6.
Yeah, like I'm looking at a chunk of map right here that just doesn't look familiar to me at all. So that's pretty cool. I would love to spend some time playing this one of these days, and I certainly will. It's just one of those having to track down the right way to play it kind of a thing.
Maybe we'll do it for a pain in the ass-a-thon. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah,
It was a pain in the ass to get it.
It's a pain in the ass to get it. That's true.
That technically fits in there. So yeah, Zelda: The Ancient Stone Tablets, BSX Satellaview. Again, it was one of those ones that's just kind of playing it in its absolute original form is more or less impossible, but it's got, there's enough of it salvaged on the internet to make it into a functional game with it's got new enemies and new character designs and all sorts of I'm the same video. I'm like, this dude's talking to a mole. Like, there's this giant mole just pacing around up near Zora's waterfall.
Is it Mr. Rossetti?
No, it's not Mr. Rossetti. Although that would be hilarious.
Guy's an asshole.
He is.
Hate that guy.
So, all right, that's enough about this one. The BSX Satellaview Zelda games are a really, really fun side thing. They're just an interesting piece of Zelda history, and they're unlike the Unholy Triforce, which we talked about last week. They're actually really cool.
Right.
That one again only released in Japan on March 30th, 1997. So they kept this thing going for a little while now. I mean, there was a sequel to Chrono Trigger on this thing, for crying out loud.
I know.
Which was a text-only game.
Which is weird.
It's very weird.
God
and they
damn it.
wound up erasing it from history because they took parts of it and used it in Chrono Cross. It's like, there's so much weird stuff on here. Satellaview is a fascinating piece of tech. I believe I wrote a whole thing about it in Nintendo Force, actually. I did a peripheral vision on it where I talked about stuff like the Mario Excite Bike and the F-Zero courses and stuff. It's super cool stuff.
Come on, Nintendo. Make it happen.
Make it happen. Collect all that stuff for us. Bring it over here. Let America have it.
Come on. We're nice. Well, we're not. But, I mean, we were. You should have done it the last 8 years. It was your opportunity. Japan.
So,
now.
We didn't get any of the BSX Satellaview games.
Right,
and Zelda's Adventure, Wand of Gamelon, and Faces of Evil in 1993 and 1994, they didn't really count. They were not official releases on Nintendo consoles. Most people have never even heard of them.
Right.
The last proper Zelda game that we got in America was Link's Awakening in 1993. So, the wait begins.
5 whole years for this series to come completely off the rails and go down the toilet.
Aw.
No, I'm just kidding.
So,
from what I've read of our fan mail, I am supposed to trash Nintendo. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to make people. No,
that's what you're supposed to do.
So I'm just trying to make people happy, Chris.
You do it for us.
I do.
So
we all have roles to play.
The next game on our list.
My real name.
Yes.
Anyway.
The next game on our list is, of course, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, released November 21st, 1998 in Japan, November 23rd, 1998 here in the United States of America. It was on the Nintendo 64. Launch copies were gold cartridges, which I have and love and cherish. And
I thought that was so cool that they brought that and kept that up.
That was
Like,
that was really cool. I was
that
glad
was
they
so
brought that
cool.
back. I'm sad I'm not getting a gold cartridge for Breath of the Wild. Like,
Yeah,
how
well,
are we missing that opportunity here? Come on,
they're
now.
not doing any of them gold.
No.
That's
There's even a freaking collector's edition, and the little cart thing is still black. That makes me sad.
That's
But
dumb.
so this game, I mean, you can't talk about Ocarina of Time without talking about the hype building up to it. You know, it had been
it was massive.
It was a while since we had a Zelda game, and
5
this was one of
years.
the first things that was even talked about when they were talking about Project Reality. Then the Ultra 64, and eventually Nintendo 64 was Zelda 64, and I remember seeing screenshots in EGM of that very first tech demo, the one where it's like Link with the brown sleeves looks barely better than a Virtua Fighter 1 character fighting against that reflective knight. And I thought it looked so cool. Like,
I know,
it looks,
we were all blown away, like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
you look back
Look
on it
at
and like
this.
it looks kind of awful by today's standards, but
Kind
you
of
know, looking
awful
at
is
it then,
putting
it was
nicely.
thinking of what it would be like to walk around Hyrule in 3D.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, that lit the imagination on fire. And what's also cool now is now with the internet around, you can see video of that tech demo in motion, and it's so fascinating to look at.
You
and
can
it
also
was-
see video of Ocarina of Time done on the Unreal Engine, which is also fascinating to look at.
It really is. I can't tell if I love it or if it's just kind of okay.
Oh, I love it. I do.
It's like it's really awesome in some respects, and then in other respects it's like almost bland. I don't know, but I mean, it was just some dude doing it in Unreal Engine, so like really. Anyway, yes, Ocarina of Time. It was Zelda 64. There was that one, and then there was the later one that looked a little bit cooler. It looked a little bit more like the game that we eventually got. More screenshots showing up in EGM and whatnot, and the hype for this game was unreal. It was it was damn near unlike anything else I had ever been through. I mean, this was. I just wrote an article about my first getting my first Super Nintendo, and that was my first real introduction to the hype machine of just being so unbelievably hyped for something that I couldn't sleep at night. And
Yeah.
this was like the next biggest one, after A Link to the Past. I mean, obviously there were games like that for Super Nintendo that were just like got under my skin. Like I couldn't wait for Donkey Kong Country. I couldn't wait for Super Metroid. But I mean, this was the first big sequel to Legend of Zelda, because like Link's Awakening is obviously it's a great game. We talked about how much I love that game last time, but in a lot of ways, especially visually, it was a step down because it was on the black and white Game Boy as
Right.
opposed to the Super Nintendo with its gorgeous visuals. And not that I hold that against it, but I was ready for a
it is what it is.
true-
We were ready for next gen Zelda.
Yeah, we were ready for the next level, and this was it. This game, oh boy, this game really delivered on so many levels for me. I was so happy with this game. I must have played it beginning to end dozens of times. Jesus, stepping out in a Hyrule Field for the first time, getting Epona for the first time. I mean, geez, there's so many things in this game that were just remarkably incredible to me. And unlike playing Super Mario 64, this actually felt like a Zelda game, because when you really break it down to its bits, I mean, Zelda was technically already 3D. You've got your 3D range of motion. It's just this was, instead of like you're on different flat planes, it's actually 3D. You can go up hills and climb specific things. And oh my god, this freaking game, like walking around that, you get to Hyrule Castle Town and you hear the crowd in the background, like you hear it's live, and it's not like the one town in A Link to the Past, because there's only one town in Hyrule in A Link to the Past, and then Link and his uncle living in some house in the middle of nothing else. Like they have no neighbors.
It's just them.
It's just
They're the
them
only
in a
people that
house
live
on a
in that town.
hill, like I don't know, like 40 feet away from the castle. Very strange geography in that game.
It really is.
Really kind of harkens back to one of my favorite things about A Link to the Zelda 2 was that there were towns everywhere. Like Hyrule was a civilization in that game. You could go from town to town to town, and you would see all these different people and different kinds of people and people saying different things and different architecture. And I mean, obviously it was incredibly limited, but that was always a slight complaint with me with Zelda games since then, where there was tons of towns in Zelda 2, and then every game since then, like A Link to the Past, was just one town. And in Ocarina of Time, you had Hyrule Castle Town and Kakariko again, and you a couple other places that different species lived. But the world has never felt quite so large to me as it did in Zelda 2, mostly because there were all these different towns.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter too much just because of how alive those towns felt in comparison to anything else I had seen in a video game. And this did that kind of sort of Resident Evil-esque thing where some of the backgrounds were flat images that were just really detailed, and then the polygonal characters would walk across them. I mean, look, I freaking love this game. I freaking love this game. It's not my favorite Zelda game.
No, it's very good.
Yeah. What are your feelings on this game? How did you first? Did you get this on launch day? Did you drool over it the way I did? Were you hyped for it? What was your deal with this?
My roommate got it because I had a PS2. I did not have an N64. So
you mean a PS1?
Oh well, yeah. I guess at that point it was PS1 still.
In '98, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it was. But I never had the 64. Not until much later. And I was hyped for it, and I was like, oh, this looks really dope. Like, I'm really excited about this. And then not having the system, but certainly having plenty of other stuff to play on PlayStation at that point, like, I kind of forgot about it. I was like, oh, Zelda's a thing. That's cool. We'll play Metal Gear. We'll play Suikoden. That's fine. You guys
this came out in a similar time period as Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
And can you believe that? Like, two of the most transformative games, like two of the games from that generation that really still hold water. That exactly define that generation. Yeah. Both were around the same time.
And I was playing Metal Gear Solid at the time. So, later on, I thought I don't love the 3D Zelda games. Like, I like them. They're very good. I prefer the top-down Zelda. That is just my preferred way of playing it, and I did think this one was really cool. I think this may be the best use of time travel in a game.
I liked that quite a bit, yeah.
It does really clever things and really interesting things with it, like planting the seeds and coming back 7 years later, and you can now climb the plant that has grown.
Yeah.
Or just even the story uses of time travel with Link getting the Master Sword and then being locked away for 7 years because he's not able to use it yet.
Yeah.
That
was really cool.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, why do you give this kid a sword? Like, don't give the little kid the most powerful fucking weapon. Like, that's a bad idea. Let him grow up a little bit. So, I thought that was really cool. I hate Navi. Navi drives me insane.
She doesn't bother me too much.
The sound on the N64 pierces my brain in a particular way a lot of times. Like, there's just it hits a certain pitch and in a certain frequency that I don't care for most of the time, which is really a very specific kind of dislike of it. But
I completely agree with you. The N64's, I love the soundtrack to this game.
The soundtrack is great.
It's the compositions of this music are truly phenomenal, but there are certain sounds that because the N64 wasn't CDs, it wasn't pushing CD quality sound. We're not getting Symphony of the Night over here. So it's like you've got these gorgeous compositions, but a lot of them are marred. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk Majora's Mask, because I have a much larger issue with the instruments they use in Majora's Mask than in Ocarina of Time. But still, I totally get that point about certain sounds. There's like a trumpet sound that the N64 uses that it doesn't sound right. It just bugs me. But
and that was just always the thing about Navi. Like, there was like that particular frequency just pierces my brain in a particular way that I just don't care for.
Hey, listen.
Look. Nope. I'm about to exit the podcast. what I thought was really cool about this game, and I thought was really smart, was when you entered the Z targeting, right? And the whole Z targeting system was really cool. But the fact that it went to like a widescreen letterboxed view made it feel big and important.
And it increased. It was so intentional the way it pushed your focus on what you're doing.
Yep.
It was just like, and now focus on exactly this. And it was genius. I mean, this was the first one to really do that and pull it off right, similar to the way that Super Mario 64 was the first game to really pull off movement in a 3D space right. And there's no understating the importance of this game, just from a technical standpoint.
It became very much a template for how you do this sort of thing, much in the same way that the original Zelda was a template for how you do that sort of thing.
No, you're absolutely right. My favorite things about this game, really the things that blew me away more than anything else. I mean, obviously there's stuff like riding the horse and the sunset and all that business, but really I loved the treatment of the mythology in this game. I absolutely loved like the seven sages, akin to the seven wise men in Link to the Past, which were eventually revised to be called sages instead of wise men. But I like Ganon having a human form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Ganon was always the pig before this, and now we get to see Ganon, what Ganon looked like before he was transformed by the Dark World and all that business. You get to see the Gerudo Ganon, that scene where he's like, obviously, like there's a lot of people really remember the scene where he shows up on the horse and all that stuff, and I always thought that scene was shot very weird. I didn't love the way that scene was shot, but the scene that killed me, that just absolutely kills me every time, is when you meet Zelda as a kid and she points to him walking into to bow before the king, and he's just got that sinister look on his face, like, I don't trust that guy. That guy's up to something. You just see him, and just that image of him being a person and actually being up to something, instead of being just this figure of, I'm evil, I'm Ganon, I'm the bad guy, and like always been imposing and always a cool character design, but this time like he's up to something and he's not that monster that he was before. He looks like a man, and I friggin' love that. And then of course, really one of the best final boss sequences I've ever experienced. Everything about this thing, that last fight against Ganondorf is just going up those stairs with that organ music from A Link to the Past, and you get there and he turns around and he does the whole like crazy magic thing, and you have to do that silly baseball game with him and knocking the shit back and forth, but then you hit him with the light arrow, you go in there and you just start beating the heck out of him. And now obviously I had a launch copy, so the blood was red in mine. Right. And that was something they eventually revised because this game is rated E for everyone. And you finish beating up Ganon, he just coughs up a bunch of blood, and then he tears down the castle. He does that crazy scream, and all the glass shatters around him, and you and Zelda are just like, is he dead? Is he done? Like, we escaped the falling castle, and then he busts out of the rock and he turns into the giant Ganon with the two swords, and just the fire everywhere, and you got to get your sword, and Zelda helps you with the battle. And oh my god, the fact that Zelda wasn't just a useless damsel in distress, I loved that fact.
Right,
like
they
the
made
whole
her
game
important and meaningful.
She's running around as Sheik the whole time.
Yeah.
And then like the second she lets herself not be Sheik anymore, Ganon's like, gotcha, I've been looking for you. The second you took off that costume, gotcha. And like, yeah, you do have to save her, but then she saves your ass. Like, she gets you through all the doors. She holds Ganon down so you can stab him in the face with the Master Sword. Like, it's so good. It's so good. Oh God.
Is it good?
It's all right.
It's all right. It's it's okay. Now, what's your feeling on the 3DS version? Because that's still not something I've played. I'll probably pick it up eventually.
It's spectacular. So, I mean, to just kind of go in order, there was the Master Quest thing, which was basically the second quest. It was released in November of 2002 in Japan and February 28th, 2003 in America, it was released on the GameCube. This is kind of like the remnants of the Ura Zelda, which was the kind of pseudo sequel type thing that they were doing for the 64DD that never really happened. And that was neat. I played through that back when it was released on GameCube. I thought it was cool. I mean, it's just Second Quest type stuff. Things are moved around. Puzzles are different.
Is that the one that came with, like, it was Ocarina of Time, Master Quest, Zelda, and Zelda 2? Is that the disc?
I can't remember if Zelda 1 and 2 were on that one, because there was also a second one that they did that didn't have Master Quest. It was just Ocarina, Majora's Mask, Zelda 1 and 2. I think
have them
this
both.
one,
it
was the red
sure
one.
Which.
It was the one that had like kind of the red flames in the background. But yeah, it was the GameCube disc, and that was okay. But just acknowledging that was a thing that exists, it was really cool that they did that. It was really fun to go back to Ocarina of Time and have it kind of remixed. You know, you're not telling a new story here. It's just here's some different puzzles for you to figure out, and it was nice. It was really good. It was harder. It was good stuff. But Ocarina of Time 3D is fantastic. It does this thing that really bothers me, where it stuck too close to the original visuals. Like, they could have gone further in remaking it, because it is a remake. They did it's not just the N64 game ported over. Like, Link looks different. He's completely rendered in more modern polygons. The poly counts on everything are higher. It's just that a lot of the architecture didn't change around too much, and the music is all exactly the same. And it was done, I get why they did it, because there's so much reference for Ocarina of Time, they didn't want to really screw with it. But at the same token, I feel like it's like everyone had been asking for that Final Fantasy VII remake, you know?
Right.
I would love for them to actually go that far in remaking Ocarina of Time. And I would hope that they do someday, but it solves a lot of problems. It cleans things up a little bit. It plays a little bit more modern. The water temple is not a problem at all anymore, because like they introduced in Wind Waker, the iron boots are now an equipable item instead of equipment, you know, so you don't have to go through like 3 menus to take them on and off over and over again. You just press a button, he takes them on, he takes them off. It was very, very well done. It's incredibly well done. It was actually kind of hard to go back to the N64 version after playing the 3DS one. I do wish that there was a version of that I could play on my TV.
Right, like just release that without the 3D.
Yeah, because I mean, like I played it in 3D a little bit, but like most 3DS games, I played almost exclusively in 2D.
Yeah, I think the only one I've played fully in 3D was Gunman Clive.
Yeah, even I had to turn that off too.
Really?
I can't do it. Like after a while, it hurts my eyes. It hurts my head. Gunman Clive is gorgeous in 3D though.
It really
game's
is.
awesome.
So fun.
Go buy Gunman Clive. It's like $3
really.
for the whole thing.
For real. You can get the Wii U collection.
Yeah, the Wii U collection for like $3. It's phenomenal. But yeah, anyways. I would love this version, Ocarina of Time 3D, just the remastered of it being on a television somewhere to play, because it really is. It's the only way to play this game now. It just is. It's there's no jagged edges. It just looks and plays so much better. Highly recommend it.
It's the way I will play. Now, Chris, I do have to interrupt real quick. I just got an email from my boss.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Nice.
So I've already taken my pants off.
Excellent.
Yes.
I felt that in your voice.
There's a disturbance in, well, my vagina. Anyway, so Ocarina of Time 3D is the way to go.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Just for the sake of saying it, was released in 2011, June 16th, 2011 in Japan, June 19th, 2011 here in the U.S. If you've never played Ocarina of Time for some reason, get the 3DS one. It takes everything that the I don't want to call it the Twin Snakes of Ocarina of Time, because Twin Snakes. I adore Twin Snakes, but
it's fun.
Twin Snakes broke a few things.
It did.
Like the Revolver Ocelot fight.
Yeah. Well,
which is just like stand still and point. It's just every time he pokes his head out, just shoot him in the head.
Just do that.
Kind of broke a few things. Ocarina of Time 3D didn't break anything. It's a complete improvement in every way. It is the most superior version of it. It still doesn't have red blood, which makes me sad. But what are you gonna do?
Well, it's Nintendo, so
they want to keep that E rating, and I get it, because it's Ocarina of Time, and everyone should play it. But yeah, if you haven't played it for some reason, The
Zelda's
3DS
one of
one's
those
the way to
games
go.
that should be, it's one of those games that should be for everybody. Zelda should never get to a point where it's too mature. That is the
Yeah, it
only
should
thing I'm
never get
actually worried
M.
about with Breath of the Wild.
I mean,
Like,
it's
I'm
been
worried that
teen
my
before.
kids aren't going to be able to get into it. You know what I mean? Like, because like
I can.
we got into Zelda when we were 7.
We did.
Like, and I know kids now who are into Zelda because they played like Four Swords Adventures, you know, that sort of stuff. Like,
My niece is
my
playing Wind
daughters
Waker
go
HD
to
right now.
school with kids who are into Zelda now because they played Wind Waker HD.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
worry
my
that Breath of the Wild
7-year-old
is going to be.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't take away from those other games. Like, I think
No, sure.
there should always be that option, but as long as it doesn't go past teen rating, like I'm okay with it. Is because I like that it's accessible, but I want Nintendo to occasionally make games for adults. Like,
Oh,
obviously,
absolutely.
to have an accessibility is important, but I don't want them, if they have an artistic vision that's going to be closer to teen rating, like similar to what they did with Twilight Princess, I want them to follow that through to conclusion, you know, and not neuter the game or change things to compromise their vision just in order to make it more playable or to conform to a system spec like they did with Star Fox Zero or have done with other games in the past. Like, that's Nintendo at their worst. And Nintendo at their, when they're doing things for the right reasons, Nintendo at their best is what I think we're seeing in Breath of the Wild, and definitely what we saw in Ocarina of Time. And
I'll
again,
let you know.
what we
I'm going
saw,
to play it on my Wii U, so I'll let you know.
Well, it is again what we saw in Majora's Mask, released on April 27th, 2000 in Japan, and October 25th, 2000 and here in the U.S. Majora's Mask is a pretty huge departure for the series.
This is a weird game, and like when you go back to it, it's as weird as like Spirit Tracks, but like for a completely different reason.
As in, like, this game is freaking disturbing. Like, from the outset. The first time you put on the Deku scrub situation, and it's like you're trapped and the camera's zooming in and out, and the Happy Mask says there's so much creepy about this game. And I didn't like it at first. Like, when this game came out, I was not a fan. And it was for a couple of reasons. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this on the show before, but when this game came out, we were playing Dreamcast, and it was really hard to look at Majora's Mask after playing the Dreamcast. I mean, look, if I'm comparing games, Sonic Adventure and Majora's Mask is easily the better game. But at that time, I had never seen anything that as gorgeous as Sonic Adventure on Dreamcast.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking
terrible
at
game, but it's at that time
stunning.
it was stunning to look at.
And that demo level with the whale.
Good.
Is really fun. Yeah. There's no getting around that. That one level in that game is still fun to this day.
That's the only part they spent time on, though. They were like, we have to have a great demo and fuck off for the rest of the game.
Now we're going to dig around for emeralds as Knuckles, and we're going to introduce Big the Cat. It's going to be weird.
Oh, God, so stupid. But no, you're right. Like, Majora's Mask...
It's ugly.
It's very ugly. And it's not even just ugly for, like, N64 era graphics ugly. There's a lot of ugliness in the game. Like, it's almost like the point of the world is that it is an ugly place. Like the face in the fucking moon is scary, man.
It's
like,
hideous and it's terrifying. I like, that is nightmare inducing, and that's not a knock against it. Like, that is one of the things I like about the fact that they made there is your oncoming death always looming in the sky, and
just
it is
looking at you,
terrifying.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ugly in this game. Now, the N64 game itself is, to my eyes, absolutely hideous. There's so much. I hate the sound. I love the musical compositions. I hate the sounds they use to play them. And it was because of all that I bought the game day one because it was a new Zelda game on N64, and I had to. And I failed at that game. I got to a certain point with I was transformed into the Goron, and I was trying to roll across this ice bridge while a giant Goron was sneezing at me or something, and I just said, I don't have time for this. Screw this. I'm out. And I tagged out. And then years later, it was released again in that GameCube disc.
Yeah.
And I had tried it once more just on N64 between then and again. I just couldn't make myself do it. Like, I just couldn't make myself like the game. And then it came out on that GameCube disc. I tried again, and it was like glitchy as hell. Like it was really buggy. It even had a warning when you booted up the game. It was like, this game is it's kind of buggy. Deal with it.
This is gonna suck.
Because it was,
just
this was a
putting that
game
out
that
there.
required the expansion pack to play on the 64.
Right.
And again, I just couldn't make myself like it. And then when it was released on Wii Virtual Console, where they fixed all the bugginess of it, it was a little bit cleaned up. The Wii Virtual Console games did some nice texture cleaning up on them.
Right.
I forced myself to get past that part. I just made myself play through the game. And at a certain point, it just clicked with me. And I understood why this game is so good. I finally got why people like it so much. And there's definitely a contingent of folks who think this is a superior game to Ocarina of Time. I don't agree with that, but I can totally see where they're coming from because
Right.
it's so different. And the story itself is so much more personal. Like, it doesn't add to the same mythology that I love about the Zelda universe, but it adds so much to the universe because all these characters have all these different personalities, and everything that you do in the game is kind of designed around the concept of, bringing light to darkness. Like you're solving
Right.
all these problems, these things that are poisoning people or killing people, and you're fixing all these problems. And then it's also weird it's Zelda weird. I mean, there's a point in this game where you're defending cows from UFOs, which is so God, this game is so weird. And the giant things that you summon to catch the moon are, again, they're just these like, I don't even know how to describe those hideous, frightening things. They're just, ugh.
Yeah, I've never been able. I've always gotten to that point like where you were, where it's like this just isn't for me.
It's
I've,
so
I've
worth
just
it.
never been able to power through it because like I've said, like I said a couple minutes ago, these aren't my favorite way to play Zelda games. So when I get to that frustration point, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go play, Link to the Past.
Well, to talk a little bit about the next part, Majora's Mask 3D, which was released on February 14th, 2015 in Japan, February 13th here in 2015 here in America. If you are going to play this game, do the 3D version. I've played very little of it, but what it does is similar to Ocarina of Time 3D. It doesn't actually fix my music problem, but visually speaking, it's so much better.
Yeah.
Because the issue with the N64, a lot of it was the muddy textures. There were just these colors and things that just kind of all blended together. It was a very, very muddy looking game.
It was hard to play through.
Really, really hard to play through.
It made the game hard to navigate.
They fixed so much of the architecture of things. Things just look so much better in the 3D and the 3DS version. It's kind of next on my list of things to do is really try to give that a serious go. It's somewhere between that and trying to finish Triforce Heroes, but I'm having another opportunity to play through Triforce Heroes with some friends soon. So we're going to pick up where we left off like a year ago and see if we can make a real go of it. Because much like Four Swords, that game is meant to be played multiplayer. And when you do, it is freaking good. But we'll talk about that game later, next episode. But yeah, Majora's Mask, that last boss fight is just nuts. So yeah, you've never actually finished this game. There's some really, really cool stuff later in this game. I recommend it to you to play the 3DS version very much because I think there's so many different things about this, and I almost feel like unlike Ocarina of Time, this one takes a little bit more advantage of the fact that it's a 3D game above what could have just been done in a 2D game. Like, this feels a bit more in depth in a lot of ways, and once you really get the hang of the 3D mechanic, and once the game clicks with you, it just, man, that last boss fight, and if you get the Fierce Deity Mask, and there's a lot of cool stuff to be had here. Majora's Mask is a really, really cool game. It's not my favorite Zelda game by any stretch, but it was really impressive to get to that point where this game where I really, really understood why people like it. And once I did, it's just, I can't, it's an unforgettable game experience. It really is.
Well, all right then. I mean, I it's something that I definitely want to get to. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where, as a gamer and as a fan of this series, I feel like that is a hole in my accomplishments is the wrong word, but like in my, I don't know, in my journey through video games. You know, it's kind of strange that this is one that I haven't finished or really even given much time to.
There's a couple of it's always been a mission in my life to finish every Zelda game, and I mean, at least I have an excuse to finish those CDI Zelda games now, as long as we keep doing the pain in the ass-a-thon.
Right.
But there's a couple of Zelda games that I own that I've never made it through, and I'm glad I finally made it through Majora's Mask. And there's other ones. We'll talk about them actually after the break. We'll talk about a couple of those that I've just never been able to make my way all the way through for one reason or another.
Me neither.
So,
but I'm glad I have them.
Me too. So we're going to take ourselves a quick break. We're going to read some commercials. When we come back, we're going to talk about we're going to real quick talk about a couple of portable games, and then we're going to talk about my favorite video game of all time, bar none.
Tetris.
You're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from geekade.com, so stick around. And now here's a look at some of the other original content available right now at geekade.com. First up, our new comics podcast is back again. Again.
For real
this time. Dan and Nick discuss issues of Batman, The Walking Dead, and Invincible. That's still going? I thought they ended.
Oh, it's so good.
Huh. Anyway,
12 issues. 12 more.
Oh, good for them. All right. They also get into some news, including the future of the next Batman movie, a hip-hop legend directing an episode of an upcoming comic book show, the casts of some other upcoming comic book shows, and more. Don't miss Bags and Boards Episode 3, The Ben, the Bat, and the Cat.
It was good times. Good chat. Next, remember the days back in the 90s when wacky screensavers were all the rage?
I do.
I do too, and man, do I not miss them. What's your screensaver now?
It's just pictures of my kids, but you know what? I do actually kind of miss things back then because I used to have a screensaver that was Torgo. It was obnoxious because every time I would leave my computer alone, you know, after 5 minutes, you just hear dun, 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 and a little Torgo would be walking across my screen and stop every few minutes and say, "The master would not approve."
If we didn't have to edit it out, I would tell you what I changed all of my roommates' screensavers to in college. It was fun. Anyway, at my screensaver now, black screen. Not pictures of my kids, just nothing. Anyway, so Trish does remember as well, though. So this month, she decided to take a look at the popular screensaver suite After Dark. Harken back to the days of flying toasters, dogs that would tear up your desktop, and other forms of pixelated whimsy. Get the backstory on the golden era of the screensaver and before their time, After Dark, screensavers.
Then, for this year's Why I Love Wrestling articles, Dan decided to highlight a wrestling video game once a month, relevant to our interests. First up, Pro Wrestling for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Learn all about the 1987 classic that gave us A Winner Is You, among other things, and discover whether it still holds up today in Why I Love Wrestling games. Pro Wrestling.
God, I love that game.
Me too.
It's so good. So good. Give me a sequel, Nintendo. Come on. I need HD Amazon. Finally, our gaming podcast has reached a very special anniversary. You Shall Not Pass Go is 1 year old this month. To celebrate, Dave and Jengiz invited our very own Evan Goldstein to join them. Sorry, Evan John Goldstein. Gotta get it correct. To join them on their 2-part anniversary special and attempted to teach him how to play Magic: The Gathering. The results are hilarious, as you might imagine, but were they successful? Find out in You Shall Not Pass Go, episodes 12.1 and 12.2, anniversary special, Magic.
You can catch all this great stuff, plus tons of other articles, videos, podcasts, and more right now at geekade.com. And we are back. All right, let's keep this gravy train going. I don't know what that means. A train just
Shouldn't it be a phantom train?
And we're back.
That's what it was called in the Phantom Hourglass, wasn't it? The
I think
Train?
so.
I don't know. I've never played it.
It's I've played a little bit of it. It's actually it's pretty good. We'll get to that one.
I have a
week.
week to play it, so we're good. I might.
You have a week to play it. So we're going to start off, we're picking up right where we left off. Let's see, the last game we talked about was Majora's Mask in 2000. So in 2001, we got a duet of Game Boy Color games, Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, released February 27th, 2001 in Japan, May 13th, 2001 here in America. They were originally supposed to be 3 games, but instead they pared them down to 2 in order to maintain this cool little password talk to each other kind of thing they had going on with these games. So these games, I recognize that they are good because I've played through a chunk of Ages. I've played very little of Seasons. I've played through a good chunk of Ages. Like I gave it a real serious go a few years back when it came out on 3DS Virtual Console. These games were made by Capcom, and a flagship in Capcom, I think.
Yes.
They feel different, and I think one of the biggest problems I have with them, like, there's always been a certain amount of whimsy to Zelda games, but it's like things go in a different direction in this one that just never sat right with me. Like, there's a point where you're riding around in a kangaroo pouch that's got boxing gloves, and it's like,
it's a little weird.
It's a little weird, and not the kind of weird that
not Zelda
Link's
weird.
Awakening was. Yeah, exactly. It's not Zelda weird. It's just weird.
It's Capcom weird.
Yeah. It's just a different flavor, but I would almost be able to swallow that flavor better if it wasn't reusing. Almost all of the assets of this game are reused from Link's Awakening.
Right.
And that has always really rubbed me the wrong way about these games. Like, first off, Link's Awakening DX, I never really thought looked quite right in color. Like, they didn't get the color. It looks colorized. It looks like when you look at old colorized movies, like before they actually got decent at colorizing things.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, that should just be black and white.
So yeah, something's wrong with it. And
there's, when you design something knowing that it is going to be black and white, you make certain choices that then look very strange when they're colorized.
That's very true.
You know, and you're directing it and shooting it, quote unquote, in a very specific way due to the limitations of your format.
Yeah, and as such, like, these games feel like they're constructed out of these colorized pieces. And, like, look, I'm not going to say that there aren't really cool things about these. Like, the Aquamentus battle is just so freaking cool. Like, to see Aquamentus from the original Zelda, like, really fleshed out into a cool-ass boss fight.
Yeah.
There's some really, really good stuff in these games, and I wish I could really make myself sit through and finish them, because I know that it's worth it in the end. It's just not something that I've ever really caught on to do, because I always have something else cooking. You know, like, there's always something else I want to do more. Like, if I'm picking up my 3DS to keep playing the Game Boy game, I'm going to keep playing Pokemon until it's done, which I really do need to finish that one.
You really do. This is like a 7-year adventure for you.
And I was just doing it.
And
like
it's
last
not that
month,
long of a
I
game.
wrote another couple of paragraphs on it, because, like, I got really into it again for a couple of weeks, and then other things happened in life, and I had to put it back down. And
I'm going to start one and finish it before you do.
It's probably true. I bet you could.
Pokemon
you could
Yellow.
Do that. You're just gonna pick up Yellow. So, but yeah, these games are. I love the idea of these games, like being able to talk to one another. Like, you finish one game, you get a password, and you put it into the other game, and then it changes things in that other game, and eventually gives you access to the true ending, which is a battle against Ganon.
Which is cool.
It is cool. I
It's
like
a very
the art
cool
direction.
thing.
Like outside of the game, I thought the art direction was really cool. It was like really an extension of the Link's Awakening art style, which was an extension of the Link to the Past art style. I really liked that look to it. It was just something always felt missing about these games for me.
They are a little left of center. They're two games. I'm just the same. I have them. I haven't finished them. I'm very happy that I have them. That's something where I can be like, oh, I've got Oracle of Ages and Seasons because
Complete in the box, baby.
No, I don't have that. I just have the carts, but I'm not that much of a crazy person. Like I am. I know you are, but like I happened to somebody traded them in at the store I was working in, and I was like, oh, cool, like right on, I'm into this, and they're oddities and they're cool. I dig it. They had some really cool floor puzzles in these, like where you had to walk the entire like floor and hit every square but not like repeat. I don't know, there's just like there's some really cool.
I liked the seasons thing, like the little bit of seasons that I've played, because I eventually got bored of Ages, and then I was like, let me try Seasons the next time I tried to play through them. And like I really liked the idea of that wand that would just change the seasons. So like, a tree was in your way, so you change it into fall, so the tree is more wilted, and you can just walk past it.
Yeah,
kind of
it's
stuff.
cool. Like there's some really
good
there's some
concepts
really
there.
cool ideas in here.
And it really, I feel like it's my problem. Like the game is not doing anything wrong. I need to get over myself so that I can enjoy these games enough to finish them. And I swear to God, I'm going to one day.
One of these days, maybe we'll do when the site is nice and old and we are out of shit to do. We'll just go through and do Zelda chronologically.
Nice.
And we'll just play through them, and we'll
just play through them all.
Yeah.
And we have nothing else to do with our time. When our kids are all graduated from college and stuff.
Yeah, so like my kids are going to be 8 this year, so like 14 years from now, will be good. Something like that. It's a 14-year plan. Honestly, with the amount of shit that we have to do, it's going to take us 14 years to get through all this shit. So
that's probably true.
We can start with the first Zelda, and it'll be fine. Because we can do that one in like 2 hours. But then after that, it's going to start being a project.
Yeah. It'll take me a little while to beat Zelda 2 again. I just know it.
These are just really cool games. Like the maps are really cool. They're really interesting. There's some good ideas. I think these are games that are like, I would really love to see a lot of this stuff like updated.
Yeah, these games are really kind of ripe for some sort of remake, some sort of graphical improvement, some sort of something. It would be very interesting to see that happen. Like I have a particular dream I keep having where somebody does the Kingdom Hearts like 2.5 HD remix thing like they did with Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, and they had just basically put Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks in the Wind Waker HD engine and make that work. Because I would love to see that happen.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. But we'll talk more about those games in a bit. So that's enough on the Oracle games. In December 3rd, 2002, and then March 14th, 2003, for the Game Boy Advance, we got A Link to the Past and Four Swords. So it was just a Link to the Past ported to GBA with voice samples for Link for some reason. And there also included this little Four Swords game. I don't have a ton to say about Four Swords because I didn't play a lot of Four Swords. Four Swords Adventures I have a ton to say about because that game is goddamn genius. But the original Four Swords, like, it's cute. I played a little bit of it when they did the Anniversary Edition in 2011. That was like, basically just a fancier version of the original Four Swords that you could play on 3DS with wireless connectivity. And you didn't need a bunch of people to have the cartridge or anything like that. I just don't even remember if it was download play for the original one. But either way, it was easier for me to get to play Four Swords with people. So I was able to play a little bit of that. But it wasn't, it didn't have the same kind of structure, like, big overarching quest or anything like that. It was just a fun collection of puzzles, and that kind of multiplayer Zelda introduction was really cool. And it's also kind of strange that this was it was earlier than Wind Waker, not by much, like, you know, a week or so. But this used the art style that was established in Wind Waker, yet it came out before it.
Yeah,
which is so weird.
It's a cute game though. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a nice distraction, and I'm glad that they built on it.
Right.
Because Four Swords Adventures is amazing. Oh, I can't wait to talk about that one. I would love an opportunity to play that game again with people. They need to make an online version of that game for crying out loud. They need to make an online version of that on Switch. Make it happen. Right. Give it to me.
Let's get to the last game for the night. It being your favorite game of all time.
Yes,
because
indeed.
And we've talked about this before. This is not a game that I have finished.
So, on December 13th, 2002 in Japan, and March 24th, 2003 in America, Nintendo released The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker for the GameCube. And then they remade it in HD on September 26, 2013 in Japan, October 4th, 2013 here in America on the Wii U. And, okay, so, haven't had a console Zelda in a while. Right? This is 2002. Majora's Mask was in 2000, so it had been a couple of years. But not being a huge Majora's Mask fan, the last 3D Zelda game that I really liked was 1998. So it had been a while since I'd had a big console Zelda game that I was really genuinely excited for. Now, you can't talk about Wind Waker
this came out.
You can't talk about this game without acknowledging its strange history. You know, before the GameCube came out in Space World in 2000, there was that tech demo that was still really incredible to watch. They did this great GameCube tech demo where they showed off Luigi's Mansion, some weird thing where Meowth is doing a rock concert, and the first footage of what would eventually become Metroid Prime. And
was this the 100 Marios thing too?
Yes, Super Mario 128.
Yeah.
And you got to see Zelda for GameCube, and it looked amazing. It looked like
Twilight Princess.
Sort of. Twilight
it looked
Princess,
real.
It did. It looked more realistic. It looked like the artwork from Ocarina of Time's manual in 3D, you know? And it was a fight of Ocarina of Time Link versus Ocarina of Time Ganondorf. It was a sword fight between the two of them. And
it was just grown up Ocarina of Time Link, not young.
Adult Link.
Yeah.
Straight up sword fighting Ganon. They eventually come to a point where they back off one another. They're circling each other, and Ganon gives him the whole, like, come on, hand gesture. Link throws his shield so he can hold the Master Sword two-handed. Their swords clash.
Shorts at him. It's very strange.
He throws his shorts, yes. And then that's where it ends. And I must have watched that so many times on like a small screen on my desktop the size of a postage stamp, because that was as big as I could possibly stream video back then. You know, like I downloaded this video. It took like a day and a half to download. And then I just watch it like every day. Oh my God. That was incredible.
It was so cool. It was so cool. It was because that felt like the natural progression of where video games were headed at that point. Like, we hadn't yet gotten to God of War yet or things like that, but it felt like this is cool. Like, because it still had the charm of the characters that we had known and grown up with and loved, but it just looked amazing. It was like, oh, this is truly next generation kind of stuff here.
Yeah, and next to Luigi's Mansion, and particularly the Metroid Prime stuff, you were like, oh, all right, so Nintendo is on the ball. They're not doing cartridges anymore. Like, the kind of stuff we've already started seeing on Dreamcast and PlayStation 2, now we're getting to see what Nintendo franchises look like with that kind of treatment, and it's amazing. And nothing was more exciting than that Zelda one, not even the Metroid stuff.
Oh, no.
Really,
it felt like Nintendo was serious again.
And they definitely were, because the GameCube made some pretty damn serious games like Metroid Prime, which is a masterpiece. I mean, there was some real good franchise care on the GameCube. Like
Metroid
F-Zero
Prime,
GX.
not a lighthearted romp.
Yeah, no, not so much. But then a little while later, I think the next Space World in 2001, they showed off the trailer for the next Zelda game, which I was particularly excited to see. And then I saw it, and I almost threw up.
We all threw a collective hissy fit.
I mean, you can actually go back to...
It was a tantrum.
You can go back to the issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly after that happened. I was the letter of the month that month for my letter that I wrote into EGM about how I was, I was very confused about what Nintendo was up to because we had Super Mario Sunshine, which was Mario with a water pack. So we had a game that looked like they were turning Mario into a janitor for some reason.
Yep.
We had a first-person shooter Metroid game developed by an American company, which concerned me. And then we had Wind Waker, which to this day is still a terrible trailer. The original trailer for Wind Waker is hot, steaming garbage. I hate that trailer, particularly the very end of it where he winks at the screen and he does the whole bit where he like Wile E. Coyotes a bunch of moblins and they run in midair and they fall down and
it was childish. It was slapstick. It felt like a betrayal from what you had seen the year previously.
Yes, it really, really did.
You felt like Nintendo suckered me in and now they're just like, nope, this is for kids. And I think for us too, like with the age that we were in our early 20s at that point and becoming like, or pretending at that point to like, this is what adults should be,
Yes,
and
exactly.
I leave this sort of thing behind and childish whimsy is not what I'm interested to because I'm a man, we're men, we're tough and we're out trolling for chicks or something,
Well, I mean, for me,
it felt wrong. It felt like Nintendo had lied to you.
I had seen that footage, the GameCube test footage, and I had always had this vision in my head of what it would be like to walk around in the Lost Woods from A Link to the Past that looked like that poster for A Link to the Past, where the sword was there in the woods and it looked like that, and with that kind of sort of realistic twinge to it. It didn't have to be like that Zelda's footage for GameCube, the test footage from Space World. That it wasn't real. Like it didn't look hyper realistic. It was still stylized like Zelda, but it was
right.
It looked more realistic.
It looked mature. It looked like a mature version.
Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it's awful.
I was not a fan of it. Now, then they showed it off at E3, and that was the first time I really turned a corner on it, because obviously it was Zelda, I was still going to give it a chance.
Sure.
But once there was a video I saw of just somebody doing gameplay of it, and they were running around on Outset Island, and I saw the grass moving around, and I heard the music, and I was like, okay, I really like this song. This could be something. I still didn't get it yet. I was still so angry about that other trailer and the slapstick nature of it, the Looney Tunes nature of it. And it wasn't until our Nintendo representative came to our Toys R Us and put in the Wind Waker demo in our unit. And I finally got to play it, put my hands on it, and see the game with my own two eyes and actually play it. And I played the game, and I walked around Outset Island, and within seconds, it clicked with me that this was not Looney Tunes, this was Samurai Jack. And from that moment on, I was done. That was it for me. I fell so deeply in love with this game, just from playing around with that demo, that I was like, oh my God, I get this. I totally get this art style now. This is incredible. This is like they took the world of Link to the Past, not the art style that's in the instruction manual, but the game, and made it 3D. And Link was so lovable. He was so expressive. You'd walk near things and his eyes would move, like his head would move around and look at different things as you're walking past them. It was amazing to me that they managed to take something that seemed like the complaint was that it was so unrealistic, but it's actually the most realistic game I had ever played up to that point.
Right.
Like everything was so tangible. His footsteps made sense. The grass moved when you walked through it. The way he climbed things, everything was the way the wind affected things. There was a sense of realism to it that was incredible. But really, I had no idea how much I was going to love this game until I got the final version and I took it home. And that intro sequence, when it's telling you the story, is I kid you not, I still get choked up when that comes on. Like, you can watch that and it's all going, it's telling the story, but as soon as it changes to the part where they're talking about, and then the hero dressed in green showed up, and there's like old style string instruments are playing the Zelda theme, and it's that like hieroglyphic style artwork, I get choked up every single time. Like I've played through this game now twice with my son because he thinks it's fantastic. He calls it the Link Boat game, which I love.
I want to play the Link Boat.
And I read him that intro, and when it comes to that part, I can't read it out loud anymore because I'm getting choked up from how amazing it is. And the way that this game continued to pay homage to its past. Like when you get to the whole underwater Hyrule thing, is amazing in its own right. But when you get into that room, and it doesn't even really, you look around and all the stained glass windows are the characters from Ocarina of Time. It's like, holy shit, this is amazing. But oh my God, the fact that Link started off not in his green outfit, he was doing normal
was just a
person
kid.
things. He was sleeping somewhere. He was a kid, and they gave him a reason for dressing in green. And God, the sailing in this game, and I know that was a big complaint when it came out. People were always complaining about how the sailing just took so long, and to this day, I can't complain about it. I just put up the sail and play with the camera and just look around. Look at the expanse, the draw distances in this game. I had never seen anything like this. No game had I ever seen where I could just look miles into the distance and then sail to it. Like there's a little tiny black thing way off in the distance that looks like an island. You can sail to that and then explore it. And it's every single little island in the game has something on it. There's something to do in every single square of this map. And it is such a masterpiece in damn near every respect. It is my favorite. I've never been more surprised by a game in my life. And again, this turned around so much. Like I told you, I wrote that letter to EGM where I was like, I'm really concerned. I don't know how to like this stuff. I feel like Nintendo is going in this direction that I just don't get. And then Super Mario Sunshine I wound up loving. Metroid Prime turned out to be a goddamn masterpiece. And Wind Waker is my favorite game of all time. Like, I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And that's kind of the thing, like with the Switch, where I'm so angry about it. I can't believe they're making all these dumbass moves, but I have to remind myself that the last time I got so pissed off at Nintendo, they turned around and made some of the best games I've ever played in my life. So
that's true. And I mean, I always had it's a game that I've just never gotten back to. And I know that I should. And I know that I want to. I think this is a game that my kids would really, really enjoy playing through right now. And I would certainly play the Wii U version.
Oh, definitely. It's gorgeous. I mean, so good.
It's stunning. I mean, it's stunning to look at. So it's one of those things where like it just happened to fall at a time where it was like, all right, well, I'm not going to play this because this looks like a little kid thing and I'm not into that. And, a couple years after this game came out, like I was still, firmly entrenched in the PlayStation at that point. Mm-hmm. And then a couple years after this came out, like God of War came out. It was like, all right, yeah, that's what I'm into. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, God of War is incredible. It really is.
And I've just never gotten back to this because, it's a wonderful first world problem for us to have is that we live with an absolute plethora of fantastic gaming experiences. Like there is no shortage of amazing things to go play in every genre now. You know, it's such an interesting thing to look at. You know, when you think back to when the first Zelda came out, the Nintendo was it. Like that was what we had. That was the system. The Atari was dead by that point. You know, the Master System was certainly much bigger in Europe, but in America and Japan, we had Nintendos. So we all played Zelda. And then in the 16-bit era, the install base went down a little bit because the Genesis was a viable alternative. And then you went further, and the 64 install base went down a little bit. Not because the quality of the games was suffering, but because now you had 3 systems to choose from. Mm-hmm. And we just keep getting to this point where the install base is so much smaller. You know, I was looking at some numbers, and I think like the Nintendo consoles, like excluding the Wii, which is just this complete outlier.
Yeah, that's consistently gone down.
It has consistently gone down, and it's almost I think it's about, you know, it's not exact certainly, but the Super Nintendo sold 2/3 as well as the NES, and the 64 sold 2/3 as well as the Super Nintendo. You know, so like it keeps going down, and there's just so many other options out there where it's like, I just, you know. And now I look at it and I'm like, well, I have this backlog of things that I'll just never get to. You know what I mean? And like Wind Waker HD is one of them.
I can't possibly recommend you getting Wind Waker HD enough. I mean, when I think about this game, like, I seriously, besides it just being so surprising, there are so many moments of storytelling in this game that are like the best kind of storytelling. There's such a sense of adventure in this game that's really, really incredible. Like there's these, like the whole bit with Zelda. Like, I mean, I'm sure you don't care about spoilers. I don't even know how far into the game you got, but I mean,
I'll forget it. I'll stop listening.
The pirate character of Tetra is introduced early on in the game, and you get to this point where, like, first off, it's my favorite interpretation of Ganon. Like, it is the best Ganon, in my opinion, bar none. He is so imposing, and he is not afraid to punch a kid in the face. I mean, there's the first time you, like, flat out meet Ganon, like, you go in there and you try to face off against him, and he just physically beats the shit out of you, and you're just this little kid, and he's just punching you in the face, and you're like, Jesus Christ, this is brutal. And then Tetra comes to try to, to rescue you, and he catches her, and as he's holding her in one hand, he's just holding this girl in his hands, and as he's looking at her, he's pulling back his hand to punch her in the face, and he looks at his hand, and his hand is glowing with the Triforce, and he's like, I found you. And it turns out that Tetra was Zelda the whole time, right, but she didn't even know it. And then you go down,
and that's cool.
I didn't see that coming. I was so blown away by that. I was like, oh my God, really? And the way they introduce her, like the King of Red Lions that turns out to actually be the spirit of the King of Hyrule, it tells her about it, and by like putting the two pieces of the Triforce together, playing the music from the intro to A Link to the Past, I'm like, blah! Brains exploding all over the place here. The other moment with actually no, it's the same scene right before King of Red Lions takes you away. You get saved by these characters you helped out earlier, including a dragon who shows up and just sets this whole tower on fire that Ganon's in after you get saved. And it's just like this great adventure moment. And then obviously the ending of the game, which is, I mean, I go back and forth. Like, there's a lot I love about the Ocarina of Time ending. Right. But the ending fight with Ganon in Wind Waker is just so incredible because, again, she's there fighting, like literally fighting with you. She's got the bow and arrow, and she's like shooting arrows at him while you're sword fighting him. And he's got these two katana friggin' things, and he's like just beating the crap out of you. He's really tough to hit. and you just keep going and going, and the whole time the world is flooding around you because you're basically at the bottom of the ocean, and the King of Hyrule made this wish to sink Hyrule permanently. Like, none of this, no, this is not savable. We deserve to be dead. We're done. And so the whole world is flooding around you. You've got these gorgeous waterfalls just falling down around you while you're doing this fight. And then as you're fighting him, like, there's no life bars or anything besides your own on the screen. And after you've fought him enough, you just press the button, and all of a sudden, it's just all of a sudden out of fucking nowhere, Link just jumps straight in the air and screams and plunges the Master Sword into his forehead, stabs him directly in the face. It's just like, what? I was so surprised when I saw that. Oh my God. And just then you end the game and you sail away to try to find a new world. You know, the pirates and Link on his boat, King of Red Lions, they sail off to go find a new Hyrule, to discover a new world, basically. Go off the edge of the map. And
right.
I can't.
It's very cool.
I can barely express how much I friggin' love this game. I can barely put it into words. I have played through this one probably, with the exception of A Link to the Past, I've probably played through Wind Waker more than any of the other games, because this was one of the first games I ever finished and immediately started a new game. Like, I finished playing this game and I didn't even wait. I just immediately said, all right, new game plus. Oh, I can play in his pajamas. That's fantastic.
I'm doing it.
Oh God. And when you're talking to the gods and the gods are speaking a totally different language and you only get half the conversation. Oh my God. That stuff was so cool because the Link's face looked like mine because he's just looking at them with this complete wonder on his face. Like, my boat is talking to a giant fish. I can't believe what I'm looking at right here. This is so weird. And the fish is talking in, like, you can't understand what it's saying. It's just showing up in Hylian. And right. You hear King of Red Lions responding to him like, oh no relation to the hero of the past. Like, they're talking about the Link from A Link to the Past, like, or Link from Ocarina of Time. They're talking about all this stuff. I kind of know what they're talking about. What are they saying? And then in New Game Plus, you can read what they're saying. Everything is translated, and it's, oh God, I'm spent. I need a cigarette. I love this game.
Fair enough.
So yes, play through this game, Dan. Just this above all else. To finish this off, get to the ending, watch Link's, be there, and press the button so that Link stabs Ganondorf in the face. It's so
be
worth
this child and murder Ganondorf.
Just straight up murder the guy. He comes back.
Right, he's gonna come back. He always does.
He's got a sword in his face. Still manages to come back. Same thing happened in Ocarina of Time. Like, this is the guy from Ocarina of Time. Link stabbed him in the face.
Well, and I really like that this game seemed to really cement the mythology of it. Having those references to previous versions of Link. It's like, okay, this isn't just some bullshit we all came up with on the internet of like, oh, what if it's all connected? Like, oh, it is all connected.
Yeah, this was the first one that really felt like, yes, there is a definite connection here. There's no getting around it. Like, you're talking to the Deku tree that was the Deku scrub you planted in Ocarina of Time. You know, like,
and that's just cool.
There's a Goron in the game. There's Zora's in the game. There's Kokiri in the game. It's just like you see these evolutions of these species into other things. And, oh, God, the bird people, the Rito. There's so much I love about this game. It's unbelievable. This game is just unbelievable to me.
One day.
One day.
After Phantom Hourglass.
Phantom Hourglass. Phantom Hourglass. Again, this is one, like we mentioned last time when we were talking about Link Between Worlds, like, it had an impossible task of being a sequel to A Link to the Past.
Yeah. How do you follow this up?
How do you follow that up? I mean, I know how you follow it up, and you don't follow it up with Phantom Hourglasses. No. That's my answer. But we'll talk more about that next week. So we're going to wrap things up here for this week. That's going to do it for us. Join us next week for part 3 of our Triforce of Retrospectives. We'll be talking about the most bizarre of the bizarre. Really strange stuff next week. The trailer that brought men to tears, myself included, and the upcoming Breath of the Wild. Once again, you can get in touch with us at mail@geekade.com, as well as all flavors of social media that we inhabit. You can like us on Facebook, find us on Instagram at Geekade, subscribe to our YouTube and Twitch channels for our latest video content, and follow us on Twitter at @_Geekade. You can also find us individually on Twitter. I am at Geekade Kris, that's Geekade Kris, and Dan is at
Geekade Dan.
If you're interested in more information about anything we discussed here tonight, be sure to check out our show notes. And while you're at it, you can also subscribe to this and any of our other wonderful pod tunes on iCast and Stitcher, because I can't talk. Or if you're super nice, you can leave us a review, because any and all feedback is welcome and appreciated. We'd also like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for making the show listenable for all you folks. We'd also like to thank Mark TDK Knight for our show's theme. You can check him out on SoundCloud and Bandcamp, or his website, which we have a link to in the show notes. Again, always remember to keep your eyes on Geekade.com, where we post something new every single day. Good evening and welcome. No, just kidding. Oh, inside baseball. Thank you, everybody, once again for listening, and keep playing games.